Hello and welcome to episode 15 of Get Decked, the video series where I make budget Magic the Gathering decks for your casual games and to introduce friends and family members to the game. In this episode we're going to look at Self-Destruct, which is a black and red deck. Let's look at that one. Before we get into the deck list though, let's remind ourselves of the rules of Get Decked. So these decks are 60 cards, they're designed for 1v1 games, there's no format restrictions, we keep the deck kind of cheap by using commons and uncommons or cards that don't cost more than $2 at the time of recording. We limit ourselves to 12 different non-land cards, so that's for the ideal mix of variety and consistency. We use strong themes, low to mid complexity, so it's easy for less experienced players to pick up and play, and just because it's a casual deck doesn't mean it has to be weak or bad, so let's get into it. So, deck list here, we've got 22 creatures, 9 sorceries, 2 enchantments, 3 planeswalkers, and 24 land, and a mana curve off to the side there. So yeah, let's get into it and talk about how we're winning. So yeah, it's black-red, so really classic theme of black-red is just sacrificing stuff, and that is what the deck's all about. Sacrificing your stuff and benefits you get for sacrificing. So we're going to kick off with 4 Mayhem Devils. So 1 a black and a red for 3/3. So I mean, like, fairly just decent stats on its own anyway. And whenever a player sacrifices a permanent, and that can be anyone, doesn't have to be just you, goes for your opponent as well. Mayhem Devil deals 1 damage to any target, so really nice effect right off the bat here. Obviously we've got a bunch of sacrifice effects, but it's really nice that it does also punish an opponent's sacrifice effects as well. And the fact he can hit anything is I think just icing on the cake. If it could only hit creatures, if it could only hit players, I'd be like fine with it. But the fact they can hit anything makes it really fantastic, I think. We've got 3 Forge bosses, so 2 black and red for 3/4. Whenever you sacrifice 1 or more creatures, Forge boss does 2 damage to each opponent, but this ability only triggers once a turn. That's fine. It's, getting an extra 2 damage in is, for absolutely free after sacrificing something, I think is absolutely fine. So we've got 3 of those. And then we've got 3 body droppers, black and a red for a 2/2. Whenever you sacrifice another creature, it gets a +1/+1 counter, and it's got an ability where you can just pay black and a red and sacrifice a creature to give it menace and plan turn. So those 2 abilities play really nice together. You sacrifice something, it gets a counter, and it also gets menace, and then also hopefully it triggers off like Mayhem Devil and Forge boss and stuff. So yeah, this is kind of like the core of this stuff. Things that like benefit from stuff being sacrificed. We've also got like some other effects here as well, some other win conditions. So Demon of Catastrophes is not as kind of like tricksy and synergistic and combo heavy as those previous 3 cards. It's just a big flying demon for really cheap. 2 and double black for 6/6 flying and trample, and as additional cost to cast it, you just have to sacrifice a creature. But as discussed, that's absolutely fine. That's what we want to be doing in this deck anyway. So we've got 3 Chandra Acolyte of Flame. So this is the first Get Decked deck that has a Planeswalker in it. So Chandra Acolyte of Flame is a card I'm very fond of because I've mentioned it, I think, before in a previous video. But a deck I recently bought, a pre-con I recently bought, was the Cavalcade Charge Challenger deck because it was on sale, it was really cheap, and that has Chandra Acolyte of Flame in it, and she is absolutely fantastic in that deck because it's a deck that cares all about like 1 power creatures and like just going super aggro with them, and like a bunch of effects that care about 1 power. It's like the I can't remember. It's a red enchantment, but like it does extra damage when a creature with power 1 attacks. So it's really fantastic, and Chandra is fantastic in there as well, mostly because of her second ability. So she's 1 double red. She comes in with 4 loyalty. Her first 0 ability is to put a loyalty counter on every red planeswalker you control, which is fine. So in this deck, it basically just reads as that's her +1, and it does nothing else. Her second ability, the 0, is to create 2 1/1 red elemental creature tokens. They have haste, and this is the important thing: they get sacrificed at the beginning of the next end step. So that second ability is what we're just absolutely going to spam, and just keep making elementals, and we just sacrifice them to the effects, or they just sacrifice themselves anyway. Either way, they're going to die, and we've got things that really care about them dying. And if needed, we've got her third ability, which is -2. You can cast a instant or sorcery card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard, and if it would basically go into your graveyard this turn, it gets exiled instead. So it essentially gives something flashback, which is good because we've got a few instant and sorceries that we would love to replay with this ability. But mostly it is about that second ability of just keep making elemental creature tokens and sacrificing them to effects. So yeah, really like Chandra. I suppose what you could do, and I have done this before in a game, is you play one Chandra, you have one Chandra out, use the second ability, you play a second Chandra, that which sacrifice or not sacrifice, it destroys the first one, and then you use the second one's ability again to pump out elemental creature tokens again if you really need to flood the board. And we've got 3 Thatcher Revolts, 2 in a red, so which is nice because then Chandra's ability can hit it. We make 3 1/1 red human creature tokens which have haste, and they get sacrificed again at beginning of the next end step. So again, that's everything we want this deck to do. It's like making a bunch of tokens which we can either sacrifice to various effects, and if we don't have those effects, they sacrifice themselves anyway. So yeah, really, really nice. So we're going to talk about now what helps us win. So firstly, Reassembling Skeleton is like the absolute perfect sacrifice fodder creature. I still to this day cannot think of a better budget card for like a deck that cares about sacrificing your own stuff. So 1 in a black for a 1/1. And you can pay 1 in a black to return it from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped, where you're just immediately going to sacrifice again to another effect. I love Reassembling Skeleton because it's like obviously such a good like little chump blocker, and also in this deck, it's obviously serving as amazing like sacrifice fodder. We've also got 3 Victimizers. So 2 in a black. This is one of my favorite reanimation spells. You choose 2 target creature cards in your graveyard. You sacrifice a creature, and then the chosen cards come back onto the battlefield tapped. So again, you really want to just like you don't mind giving up a Reassembling Skeleton to get like the Mayhem Devil or the Forge Boss back if needs be. So yeah, really, really like Victimize. And again, it's in here because it has a sacrifice in it, which obviously triggers all the other effects. So yeah, really like that. Now we're going to talk about what stops them winning. So obviously, like the Mayhem Devil has a burn effect. We've got stuff like that, but we've got a few other effects here. So this is just straight up removal. So we've got 2 Abyssal Gore Stalkers, only 2 of them because they are expensive. And they have a big swingy effect, but it's such a it is a very big swingy effect. So 4 and double black for a 6/6, and when it ends the battlefield, each player sacrifices 2 creatures. So you've got stuff that you don't care about sacrificing. It might be like Chandra's elemental tokens. It might be stuff from Thatcher Revolt, anything like that, or even just reassembling skeletons. So yeah, for this to come in and make everyone sacrifice 2 creatures, it's kind of like bartering blood also on a 6/6 body. So it's like a perfectly good win condition on its own because it's just a big creature. But yeah, obviously they're sacrificing stuff which Mayhem Devil really cares about as well, so then it can sneak in damage as well. And we've also got 3 Plague Crafter, so 2 in black for a 3/2. When it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature or a planeswalker, and each player who can't discards a card. So yeah, I really, really like this card. This is again one that flew under my radar, and I didn't notice it until I started putting these deck lists together. But yeah, because I was going to put in like Fleshbag Marauder or something, which is like the card I know most. But yeah, Plague Crafter is I think fantastic. Like 1 extra toughness and potentially makes people sacrifice planeswalkers. And even if they can't, you can play it to an empty board and it's absolutely fine, and it still makes them discard. So I really, really like Plague Crafter. And again, it's a symmetrical sacrifice, so Mayhem Devil loves this. And then for more standard removal, we've got Annihilating Glare. So 1 black mana, as additional cost to cast it, you can either pay for or sacrifice an artifact or creature. We probably want to sacrifice the creature because that's kind of the whole thing. And it destroys a creature or planeswalker, so just really straightforward removal spell. And then we got 2 Weaponize the Monsters. So 1 red mana enchantment. You can spend 2 and sacrifice a creature, and it does 2 damage to any target. So another sacrifice outlet, which obviously we really like. I'm aware that there's a whole bunch of red enchantments very similar to this, like Barrage of Expendables or like Goblin Bombardment. I went with Weaponize the Monsters, mostly because that card name is absolutely fantastic. We just love that. And also the activation cost is colorless and it just does more damage. It's just 2 damage and it hits any target, whereas I think Barrage of Expendables and Goblin Bombardment are limited in some way. I think they definitely do less damage. I think they only do one damage. But yeah, I just wanted to do Weaponize the Monsters because I think it's like an absolutely bomb card, like in terms of name and art and everything. But feel free to substitute that with your red sacrifice creature to do damage of choice. Could even be fling if you wanted like to do like rather than enchantment, like a one shot card. And then we'll quickly talk about the mana base. So we've got 4 Restless Vents to serve as a black-red dual land here. I mostly chose this one because it has the option to reanimate into animate, and become a 2/3 black and red insect creature that has menace. I've mostly done that because like it's another thing then you could sacrifice, and also it has got this ability though if it attacks you can discard a card, and if you do draw, so that's nice as well. You've got like victimize as well, so you could like discard big things to set up for a victimize later on. But most I include here because it's another potential thing you could sacrifice. And then just 12 swamps and 8 mountains. So we're going to talk about what stops us winning. So we sort of touched on this a little bit in the last deck, the life game one, but this is a deck of many parts. So we have stuff we want to sacrifice, stuff that lets us sacrifice, and stuff that benefits from us sacrificing things. So there is a very delicate balance between the three, and like they all kind of need to be working at the same time, because like Forge Boss obviously only cares when something gets sacrificed. If we've got no effects that let us sacrifice, then he's not doing anything. Same with Reassembling Skeleton. If we've got no effects that let us kind of sacrifice it and keep recurring it, then what's the point? And the same with Abyssal Gorestalker or Plaguecraft or stuff where we need to sacrifice stuff to play it. Again, if we're not getting the benefits or we haven't got our expendable stuff to sacrifice, then again, it's not meeting its full potential. So I suppose that's the weakness of the deck, is that it's the 3 parts that all need to be like really working together. But like I find a lot of enjoyment out of that and getting all the pieces of the engine working. Yeah, and I think it would be very satisfying to have all 3 pieces working really nicely. Like so you've got your sacrifice effects, you've got your stuff you want to sacrifice, and you've got your sacrifice payoffs. So yeah, I think that would be really, really fun. But yeah, as I say, is would be a delicate engine too, and probably quite easy to disrupt, I think, maybe. But I'd love to know what you think about this deck. I've not really built like a sort of like a black red sort of sacrifice deck like this before, at least how black red sacrifice is presented in modern sets these days. I have done like a sort of a black sacrifice deck before based on Grave Pact, but like not a black red one. So I'd really like to know what people think about this one. If you've got any thoughts or comments, or like suggestions about cards that you sub in or sub out, like do you like the look of this deck, or like do you have a friend or family member who think would like playing this deck, then absolutely stick a comment below. I'll give it a read. I always do. Always enjoy doing that. But yeah, we're now done with this kind of little stretch of Get Decked decks. I will be back with more of them because people do enjoy them, but we're going to take a break from them. We're not going to do a full 10 because I do think that was maybe a little bit too much. But what we're going to do next, we are definitely leading up to dual decks. Those are definitely going to happen. So that's going to be the next main bit of content we've got coming, is looking at those dual decks finally. So I hope you join me for those. But until then, thanks for watching and listening, and have a great day.